Speech sucks, and here's why. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and today I am here to talk to you about the speech skill in Skyrim and why it sucks. But don't worry, we aren't just going to sit here and talk about how sucky speech is without offering some potential solutions that could be implemented in an Elder Scrolls 6. The main problem we have with speech is that you don't really do a lot of speeching, and by speeching I mean smooth talking. Perhaps if I had access to a better speech skill, then I wouldn't be making up words. Alas, I don't have access to a better speech skill, and what you are left with in Skyrim is essentially just a barter skill tree. You see, in previous Elder Scrolls games, there were two separate skills, mercantile and speechcraft. Mercantile for haggling and better prices, and speechcraft to help you with that ridiculous speech wheel minigame. So just throwing it out there now, we weren't giant fans of the speech system in previous games either. But anyways, in Skyrim, they combine the two skills, mercantile and speechcraft, into a single skill called speech. And I don't think this was a bad move at all. You can simply have the perk tree represent the different aspects of the combined skill with differing branches. They attempted this and there was a decent bartering / mercantile tree, but it was the rather limited and mostly crappy speech focused tree that was just awful. How about I explain that first? So in the speech system of Skyrim, there are essentially hidden speech checks. By hidden, I mean the value is hidden. So for example, an easy level check requires speech 25, or an average check needs speech level 50. These checks vary in types, intimidate or persuade, and there's even bribe. My first gripe with the whole system is that you can't use these checks to level up reliably because you start off with low speech. In the Fallout games where they have speech checks, it all works perfectly fine because you can invest points into the speech skill at each level, whereas in Skyrim you have to level by using the skill, but speech checks aren't plentiful enough to level by passing them, and that's where bartering comes in. Most of your leveling in speech will be done by selling items of high value. It is essentially a bartering skill that comes with a little side bonus that helps you shorten some quests or avoid a fee. My second gripe comes with the fact that the perks in the skill relating to persuasion and intimidation are utter tripe. Let's start with the persuasion perk. The persuasion perk makes persuasion attempts 30% more likely to be successful. In reality, what it does is cut 30% of the level required to pass a check. So if you came across an easy check, you would need a skill level of 18 instead of 25, an average check would need 35 instead of 50, so on and so forth. That doesn't seem bad on principle. Why do I hate this perk then? The biggest reason is you can't gain access to this perk until you have already leveled your speech skill to 50, meaning that you can already pass up to average checks, meaning that this will only help you with hard or very hard checks, which aren't all that common nor that rewarding. 3 of the hard speech checks are all within the quest A Cornered Rat, asking you for the location of Esbern, which after one playthrough of the main storyline, you already know. Some checks are tiny rewards like getting Sabiorn to pay you a measly amount of gold before the job is done, and some are okay, but also have easy get-arounds, making it not really worth the perk point. Also, holy cow, is the intimidation perk the largest pile of garbage I have ever witnessed. Intimidation makes intimidation attempts twice as likely to be successful. Oh yeah, okay, I like the sound of that, this should be useful. Wait. You can't get this perk till level 70. Level 70 speech is required for access to this perk, but you're basically done at that point. Who can't you intimidate? For the hard level checks, you are a mere 5 skill levels from 70 to 75 from being able to pass them regardless. For the few opportunities to intimidate, this perk would be useful for a 5 mere skill levels, which can be fixed with a quick selling session. And as for very hard checks, there is literally only one in the entire game, and it's for persuading Ferelda to let you into the College of Winterhold without passing her easy-ass magic test.
A small test, if you would. You know, I think you're right. I think you'll be a superb addition to the college. Welcome, apprentice. I'll lead you across the bridge. Once you're inside, you'll want to speak with Mirabelle Irvine, our master wizard. Please, follow me.
Honestly, it's the most ludicrous perk in the game. If you have ever spent a perk point on this perk, in the words of DJ Khaled, you've played yourself. The speech-related perks in the speech tree are failures. The intimidation perk is nonsense, and the persuasion perk is severely mediocre at best. The highlight of the speech tree is quite simply the bartering tree, which is completely fine, but how does this all affect your role-playing? This is a role-playing game after all, where you should be able to solve quests in various ways. You can be the hammer-smashing warrior, the introverted mage, or the charming silver-tongued rogue who talks his way out of every scenario. But in reality, the silver-tongued rogue doesn't really shine in Skyrim, and that is mainly because of the speech system. Previous Elder Scrolls games weren't perfect either, but I feel that one of the things that was a simple reflection of your silver tongue was how people reacted to you, and this was governed by a disposition system. I really like this system, a value of 0 to 100 that indicates how someone feels about you, and this was really cool. It changed depending on your accomplishments, your race, your guild alignments, and a whole bunch of other variables. But what is cool is that your speechcraft was your ability to change the way people viewed you. The better you were, the more likely you could convince people to like you. So perhaps you are an Argonian talking to a dark elf who immediately has a lower disposition towards you because of your race, but perhaps you have a silver tongue and you actually chat with this dark elf and you get to the point where he is smiling and calling you friend. You actually feel like a smooth talking lizard. Or perhaps your disposition is high enough that you can actually get information that you want out of him. But remember, the older games didn't have it perfect either. The speech wheel system from Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was super clunky and confusing, but I feel Bethesda threw out the baby with the bathwater by getting rid of the disposition system. So I've stated why I find the speech skill in Skyrim sucks, and some of the reasons that the older games were on the right track. So what would I propose? If I was sitting here designing Elder Scrolls 6, one of my main goals would be to do speech in a way that can easily be used in gameplay frequently, rather than just the odd speech check or solely relying on the bartering to carry the skill. I would definitely bring disposition back into the game and introduce systems where it rewards the player for befriending the barkeeper or the beggar or the ruler of the city. You playing as the silver-tongued rogue or diplomat actually make friends with people, increasing your disposition, which perhaps leads to them offering you gifts, unique information, or perhaps even certain quests. Imagine that if you maxed out your disposition with NPCs, new dialogue options would appear where they tell you their darkest secrets and confide in you. Perhaps the Cannibals of Markarth might actually share that information with you. Perhaps people confiding in you with their secret affairs. This would add a whole new dynamic to the game and would be really rewarding for a speech skill character. Imagine as a diplomatic character you can convince a Stormcloak general to abandon a fort for the Imperials, solely because you befriended him earlier and you give him some "we are friends" speech and you don't want him to throw away his life, so you convince him to go back to his family. I think that's a really neat idea. It makes the quest paths more interesting, giving you more options to solve a quest, as well as a reputation feedback system through disposition. It helps role-playing massively. If you're an orc vampire who has just slaughtered most of a village, the survivors should refuse to speak to you or just flat out flee when you come near. If you're an Imperial legate who has just united Skyrim, you should be praised by the Imperials and scorned by Stormcloak supporters. But perhaps with your fantastic speech skill, you can actually befriend those who spit on you and they come around eventually, leading to a truly unified Skyrim. Perhaps with a higher speech skill, you could convince certain characters to change their ways, abandon certain factions, turn themselves in, etc. A simple persuade, intimidate, or bribe that essentially gives you a little bit of extra gold or shortens a quest is not a fulfilling or meaningful way to play a speech character. You want to have choice and consequence, but you want there to be meaningful choices to take when you can befriend and convince people of better judgment. The final problem is the fact that it could be hard to level by doing, and the simple solution to this is, I believe, is to make better perk trees with better accessibility. If the persuasion perk, for example, was available at speech skill 20, it would be a much more useful perk. If there were perks like something called Blood Brother, which boosts disposition by 30% with a race the same as you, or Suave, increasing disposition with women, or perhaps Inspiring, which increases disposition when wearing armor of the same faction as someone. These are just spitball ideas, but it's all these little details, more perks, more opportunities, meaningful opportunities for speech, and the disposition skill. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about speech in Skyrim. I told you why it sucks and what I think needs to change. How about you guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up if you agree or disagree in the comments. I'd love to see some awesome suggestions down below for ways Bethesda could change the speech system for the better in an Elder Scrolls 6. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you want to contact Drew, Michael, or I, our Twitter accounts are the best place to do it. Links in the description below. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Subscribe for more of these cool videos. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.